Blackness is not something you liked. It was that black peen you sat on top of while not knowing the culture. The issue is you said shit like, girl, I know that's right. And he told you it was okay while you was getting cornrows in your head, ripping every edge that ever existed out. Now, you left with a black baby. And you're on YouTube Googling, how do I do my black baby's hair? And what does grease your scalp mean? And you took that problem to the black community, which is women. And they didn't want to deal with your weird ass. So now you telling that black baby that you tried to be around black women and they didn't like you. So that baby grows up feeling a certain type of way about black women too. And it doesn't help that his dad hates black women because that's why he's with you. So when he was whispering those sweet nothings in your ear to affirm every single insecurity you had about yourself, it was him showing you how much he hated his mother, not how much he liked you. There you are, left single to raise a black baby around whiteness because he left you and the family never really liked you because they knew he was weird and you was weird too. What are you going to do? Raise your child to be a self-loathing, self-hating, I was never good enough for the blacks and the white people didn't accept me trope kind of kid that we're going to have to deal with and watch crash out once a month on TikTok. Have a good day.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right. So in today's episode, we are going to be, yesterday we did a video about being mixed in America, right? In today's episode, we're going to be talking about being mixed, especially being half black in America and the challenges that comes with that.
Right. And some of our speakers today are going to be stressing on the emphasis of why they insist to be identified as black, as biracially black, other than any other thing, because they do say, according to their own opinion, they're not the same as other biracials. For example, Mexican and white, they don't have the same experiences.
Right. But guys, let's not talk too much. Let's hear what they have to say and then we come back and talk about it. You can let us know your thoughts and opinion on the comment section. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here. Let's watch.
So being biracial with the white mom is trending right now, and I just want to jump on this wagon. Dear black people, do you not see how harmful this is? Like, do you not? Let me give you some examples. You don't know what it's like to grow up mixed because you don't realize that a lot of us deal with racism since day one all the time. And these are supposed to be with people that love us, aka our families. A lot of people on my mom's side of the family were Aryan Nation skinheads. I didn't know what the fuck that was as a kid. And I didn't understand why everybody looked at me different, or why there was certain people in my family that just would never say hello to me or my dad or my mom because they were disgusted. And I didn't understand that as a kid. I didn't get it. I thought I had something on my face the way they were looking at me. You know how hard it is to nonstop be told, like, wow, you have your mom's face with just dark skin, with a look of disgust on their face while they say it, and not know why they feel disgusted to say such things? It's confusing. You gain a complex and you just don't feel beautiful no matter how gorgeous you are. You change yourself. I straightened my hair every single day in high school so that people wouldn't run their fingers through my hair or try to pull my afro when I walked in the hallway. Like, there's so many things that we did to adjust to suburbia. Or how about going to school with my siblings who are white and I'm not? And everyone asking me if I was adopted from Africa as a joke because I'm the only black one. You know how much that fucking sucked? Like, nonstop being denied my own mother being my mother because of my skin color. Like, it was crazy. It's crazy. And then I get to college and people that look like me all of a sudden are denying my blackness, telling me I have to say I'm biracial and I can't say that I'm black. And that's the first time your blackness was ever denied because your whole life, that's all you've been seen as? Like, you know how fucking confusing that shit is? No, you don't.
White mom biracials. Let's talk about it. If you're ethnically biracial black, that means that you either have a white mom and a black dad, or you have a black mom and a white dad. And those combinations mean totally different things, right? Societally, culturally, among the black community. One is perceived as very positive, and the other can be perceived as negative. If you're a Black mom biracial, that typically means you were raised in the culture, you were raised to be respectful, you were raised to like not center yourself among Black people. The opposite is true. If you're called a white mom biracial, that oftentimes means that you do center yourself, that you're not like accustomed to your culture, that you don't perceive yourself as Black. Before we go further, I think it is important to note that this conversation of white mom versus Black mom biracial is framed through motherhood, which is an inherently kind of misogynistic idea. It's this idea that mothers are the only one that sustain tradition and that the fathers are kind of just like left out of this conversation. I think it's just important to keep in mind. Let's start with Black mom biracials, right? Like zooming out from the children, I think we as like a Black community oftentimes prefer or preference this idea of like a Black woman being with a white man. It suggests that this person, this white person, is like flouting kind of typical societal ideals and is respecting and like relishing the idea of being like with a powerful Black woman. And I think part of the excitement there too is the idea or understanding that the children of that union will be raised by a Black woman. So these mixed Black biracial children will be raised by a woman who prioritizes their Blackness and like gets them comfortable with the idea of being Black and involves them with the community and the history and the tradition and the ideals. And so that person isn't kind of like tragic or like stuck between worlds or kind of profiting from this biracial identity in a harmful way to the Black community. And I think anecdotally, when we see these like biracial Black children with Black mothers, they're typically raised very well. Like the moms themselves don't really mess up in these seismic ways. The kids know how to do their hair. They are raised in the Black community. They understand about their history and their traditions, and they identify themselves as Black. I just think also the kids know who they are. There's like less of this like, oh, I don't know where I fit in. Like, I don't know what my racial identity is. Like, there's less of that. There's more like confidence in the idea of like, I'm Black and I have a white parent. What also can't be forgotten is that like when Black women enter into interracial relationships and they know that they'll be having children, they typically like choose partners who will be responsible interracial partners, right? Like a Black woman, anecdotally, of course, will pick a white partner who is going to help positively raise this Black child, who will not contribute to anti-racist ideals or like make that child feel weird or upset or sad about their Blackness. Next, the white mom biracials, of which I am a member. Anecdotally and across this app and social media, we're very familiar with the idea of like white women fetishizing Black men and fetishizing this idea of having mixed babies. In these situations, these white mothers raise their biracial Black children around white people, and they typically don't really kind of introduce them to the Black community or Black culture or Black history or Black ideals. And so these kids are fundamentally confused, right? They're ethnically, aesthetically, physically different than their mothers and the communities they're raised around, and then they slowly kind of like absorb this anti-Blackness rhetoric. In these situations where the white mom isn't like steadfast and super responsible about raising her children, these kids are raised and internalize like a lot of anti-Blackness. Like they don't know how to do their hair. They don't know how to decenter themselves in situations around other Black people. And it is ultimately harmful to the child because like they do like lack this confidence in who they are. And they also have those like proverbial feelings of, oh, I'm so tragic. I don't know where I fit in. Factually, I am a white mom biracial. Like I was raised in a predominantly white situation with a white mother. And my parents were like very into colorblindness, which is like a story for another time, which was ultimately harmful to me. I didn't know how to do my hair. I didn't understand my identity. I was very confused. I like totally felt tragic about it. And it wasn't until college where I like learned about being Black and history and culture and literature and like was around other Black people where I was able to like unpack and do all of this unlearn.
I will never identify with being biracial over being Black because biracial is not a race. Being biracial means just being mixed with two races. There's no specificity in that. I have friends who are white and Mexican and therefore biracial, and they do not have the same experience as I do. And I think that's like a large part of the issue that we have with people saying like, if you're Black and white, you're not Black, you're biracial. Well, biracial isn't a race, and you only view biracial as being Black and white. You can be East Asian and Native American and therefore be biracial and not have any of the same experiences as a Black and white biracial person has. And personally, I was raised by a Black woman in the context of Black womanhood, so I will always identify with Blackness over being biracial. That isn't to say that I don't acknowledge being biracial and the privileges that that might afford me throughout my life, but that is not, I don't identify like, I'm not Black, I'm biracial. And it's like, I know y'all like to tussle about this topic, and I just quite literally don't get, like, there's nothing you will ever say to me that won't make me identify with being a Black woman. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can ever say to me that won't make me advocate for a Black woman, that won't make me see myself in the context of Black womanhood, because nowhere out in the world am I treated as a European. Especially because the way that it was, at least for me growing up, if you were a biracial black person and you said, I'm not black, I'm biracial, you were all sorts of self-hating. You hated your blackness. You don't want to accept your blackness. You don't want to embrace it. But then now it's like biracial people are not black. They are biracial. That doesn't make sense because biracial is not a race. Biracial is not limited to being only black and white.
I want to talk to my mixed race people for a second. If you're not mixed race, stick around for the discussion. I think it's helpful for everyone. But I just want to know whether my experience is kind of like universal and we all kind of experience the same things, or whether people have different opinions on it. But I know for me personally, growing up, obviously there was a lot of confusion with identity, and I know people like joke about the whole too black to be white, too white to be black, like debate. But as cliche as it is, it's actually true, because that's where the whole identity crisis comes from, is not fitting in anywhere. And then at the time, it's kind of difficult to find people who are mixed race in the same way that you can relate to, and you can build a community around that. It's very difficult to, especially if you've grown up where one side of the family isn't as involved. So it might be your black side isn't as involved, so that whole side of your culture and where you come from, half of you is not represented in your development and your growth as a person. And then you've got the other side, which is how society perceives you. So you are taught that you are essentially half and half. You're half of this, half of that. But how you are represented in media growing up, how you are perceived by society growing up, how you are treated by other people growing up, the bullying, the name calling, the abuse, like all of that then feeds into the fact that you are not seen as half of anything. You are seen as coloured. You are seen as a person of colour. You are seen as this or that. You are seen as black, or you're seen as Asian. Like, you're not seen as multicultural or mixed race. You're seen as whatever colour you've been stained with. That's how it comes across in society. And I'd like to think it's got better with everything going on at the minute. I feel like we're going to take about 10 steps back. But I'd like to think kids growing up don't have it as hard as I had it, as people older than me had it growing up. Because like, I got bullied terribly. And 9 times out of 10, it was people calling me the P slur, people like calling me the M word, people just making the most disgusting racist jokes. And I got treated differently by teachers and head teachers. And there was only 2 of us who were in primary school, and the lad got took out of school and left and went to a different school because the racism was that bad. And it's a very underlooked thing to struggle to be proud in. See, it's mad because I don't talk about this a lot, so I'll probably get upset. It's difficult to be proud of something that people have degraded you for throughout your whole time growing up. That affects you as a person. But then when you do begin to find pride in that, and you understand your other side and the history of the other side being whiteness, and you understand that impact that it has had on everything, you find it really hard to have pride in half of yourself that is associated with racism and associated with hatred and bigotry and ignorance. So I have 2 sides of myself that I have struggled and battled with to be proud of, and it feels like you can never just exist. You have to pick one or the other. But I definitely can't pick my whiteness. I tried when I was younger, and I realised, all these kids are taking the mick out of me because I'm acting a certain way. Let me try and act white. Let me see if I can be like them. And I tried. And for a while it worked. I leaned very much into making jokes about myself at the expense of myself to appease the whiteness that was around me. I allowed people to make jokes about me and laugh it off, because if I was tolerant, they would tolerate me. That's how I viewed it. And I just find it interesting because it worked for a while, and then I grew up and went into adulthood and realised, oh no, actually, it existed everywhere. It existed in workplaces, it existed everywhere, and then it came back tenfold. And all the work that I'd done to appease white people, suddenly it was like, you were never one of us. But then you've spent your whole life growing up being told that the side that you've tried so hard to be proud of, your blackness or your brownness or whatever it might be, you're then told that that's something not to be proud of. And you end up sitting in the middle and having this whole crisis over, well, who am I and what community do I actually belong to? I feel like we have a very different experience of racism and discrimination. Definitely not the same as darker skinned people. There are, of course, having a light skin tone, there are privileges that will come along with that. Because colorism is a prevalent issue, and I think people need to be taken more serious when they say, look, our experiences are not the same. I don't think they're the same. I don't think it means that ours are undermined in any way, being mixed race. We go through different forms of racism in a way, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have massive impacts on all of us in different ways. But yeah, like, it's difficult. Like, it's a tough thing to process when you consider how much it's probably impacted all of us when you deep it, like every part of ourselves, our self-esteem, our self-worth. It's not easy to go through that. But yeah, I'm just kind of intrigued as to whether that's like a universal experience, that we all go through these thoughts and these emotions when it comes to our identity as a mixed race person.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about the videos we just played you, yeah? You know, a lot of the times, we normally hear biracial people speak who are half black and maybe another race, yeah? But the people I normally don't hear from are the other biracials who don't have melanin in the mixture, you know? And I'd like to hear the experience from this, but I guess biracials from the melanated community are louder because theirs is more obvious. And as we know, in America, black people are normally treated like they're the bottom of the totem pole, you know.
Right.
So by extension, because they present to be half white, half black, and it's obvious, that is why they really get such a hard time in America, yeah?
Right, because this is not the first time we are hearing of biracials with black mom versus biracials with white mom. And for the most part, a big population of biracials with white moms, even they themselves acknowledge that biracials with black moms have it better than them because of their accessibility to their culture, because of them having black moms.
Right, and guys, not to throw shade on anyone, but can we just acknowledge and can we talk about a lot of these young ladies, they're speaking about a lot of their black fathers being absent from their lives, or not just teaching them generally their black culture or taking them around their black families, you know. And I feel like that is quite an interesting topic to talk about. And it's normally this kind of families that when you even look at the mothers as well, the white moms, they also have a problem somewhere, you know. And like I said, I'd really like to hear the stories of other biracials in America who are coming from different communities mixed with white, you know. Like, for example, I know from the Mexican community, definitely, because they like being white adjacent, you know. Exactly. For them, they want to do it voluntarily to make that, what is it called?
They usually say to make their genes better,
Greater, yeah. And they do believe that, or the only way they can do that is by marrying white, you know. So I do believe in such a community where it's an open, it's not a secret, you know, it's an open ideology that you have to marry a white person for you to have a better generation that look better. For them, I feel like they might not be having as much of an issue as this. Maybe if you talk about maybe just the common jealousy or whatever these kids have to go through, but when it comes to identity crisis and all of that, I don't think they have it because I feel like they're kind of welcome there. So when you look at all these different dynamics and then you compare it to the ones who are half black, half white, you see where the problem is, you know, and with good reason, because the history in America between white folks and black folks is not a pleasant one, you know. So you really see the kind of challenges these kids have when they don't have a place in the black community, neither do they have a place in the white community. But, you know, also depending on the kind of parent who's raised them, like this one who talked and said she was raised by a black mother. Such a person, you cannot expect them to identify as biracial. They don't deny being biracial, but they also lean towards being black, you know, identifying as a black woman.
Right. And one thing that really got me was when someone said that in America, sometimes you find groups of black people urging biracials to identify as biracials and not black, you know, because in essence, they're not monochromatically black, you get. And then it got me thinking, because even I was one of those people who held the view that they're not monochromatic black, so therefore they fall under the biracial category. And she further on went on to explain the reason why she doesn't want to identify as solely a biracial was because, according to her, biracial is not necessarily a race, because in this biracial category, if you take a biracial black, and if you take a biracial white with other things like Asian or Mexican, these two groups of people still, they don't get the same kind of treatment in America. A biracial black is also prone to discrimination as compared to a biracial of white and Mexican, or white and Asian, or white and any other thing that is not black.
And you know, the funny thing is that they're all viewed as exotic beings, right?
Very
But
true.
can you imagine when you find an Asian who's half white and half Asian, like for example, half Korean and half white, and you know Koreans don't exactly have the yellow skin typical
Complexion.
to, yeah, exactly, to Chinese people, you know. So when you find one like an Asian, a Korean, and a white person, these people are kind of okay. I don't
Fetishized, even
and I
biracial
also,
blacks, even
right.
Blasians, biracials of Asians,
But do you know, Blasians, if they go to America, they're gonna face the same discrimination in comparison to Korean, who's half Korean, half white, and they go to America. That one might be a bit accepted, you
right?
know.
But there's common thing they both have in common: they be fetishized.
It's true.
Because the same way they'll be treated well in America, the half Korean, half white in America. Now the opposite will happen when you go to Korea. Half Korean, half black. They're also very much fetishized in Asia.
But you know that now that one we're speaking about a very different problem in comparison to what they're talking about, because they're talking about the racism they face because they're biracials, and plus the childhood traumas they have to go through because of the same. So can we just compare this? Okay, it cannot be compared, you know. But I tend to believe that the most difficult thing you can be in America is being biracial, because in some way at a point in your life you can neither fit in the black community completely, nor can you fit in the white community completely, you know. It's either one or the other, and you get to a point where you feel lost, or you kind of suffer for it, because like your hair says one thing, your skin color says one thing, but in both groups you're being denied the right to, you know, to belong, you know.
Right. So guys, let us know what you think about this episode, and also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel. Marian, do you have any last words?
Personally, I would just like to say, if there's any biracial or mixed person who's watching and is living in America, like I feel like these are the kind of conversations that when they are had, it brings the awareness, it educates people,
especially it educates especially couples who intend to get involved, especially if they're interracial couples.
Right. And we can also not take away from the actually responsible out there, people out there who've done it, right, you know, people who've done it because they just happen to fall in love with someone who does not look like them. They got a baby and raised that baby with love, you know. A child should not be brought into this world and have to go through the things these people are describing in these videos, you know. It's quite sad that you bring a child in this world and they have to go through at such a young age when they don't even understand a lot of things. They have to go through things. They are observing people talking to them with, you know, the disgust that one of them was talking about, you know. It's really quite sad, and it's a lot for kids to take in, you know. Yeah, but guys, let us know what you think about this episode, and as usual, we want to thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Let's catch you on our next, yeah?